Welcome to another awe-inspiring Through the Bible. Today we can cover, there's so many topics out there, let's just cover, I guess, just ministers and preachers in general, and where do you get your facts from ultimately? Well, it's kind of like this. If you're looking at an autobiography and a lot of people say something about the person that the autobiography is written about, or biography, and you have many sources and everything, and like maybe about Winston Churchill or someone, and you really want to know, hey man, what was his main thing? Then you would go, they have a lot of spin-offs about him, like of course he had that speech where he stood up after Europe was being bombed like crazy every day from the Germans, and there was nothing but rubble, and he stood up and he's like, he gets up there to the podium to give his speech, and he gets up there and he simply says 4 words, famous: never, 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 never give up. And then he gets down and he walks off the podium, and everybody's applauding. And that's all that they had to say was, and everybody knew he was alluding to the perseverance for which the Britons and the people kept up during the intense raids of World War II. So then you could have a lot of people speculate and say, man, he was great and he taught us perseverance and everything. And then you could have people, at college universities teaching about Winston Churchill and his how he was told, I think he was fired from one political position. I think he was actually fired from some political position. Then he came back to be the best prime minister because he was criticizing one person and their policy about containing or allowing Hitler to expand. And he said, nah, this isn't good. And they all laughed at him. But then eventually he came to lead his country during those hard times. So how am I tying this into biblical stuff? Here's how. So you could have many books and public speakers talking about Winston Churchill and speculating here and there about him. But what would be the best thing to study him? Is go right to the book that he wrote, or go right to his quotes personally and see exactly what he said and what he did. And here in Christianity, we have ministers every day getting up and they're preaching great gospels, and they're preaching the truth, and they're preaching encouragement, and they're edifying people with Christ's words. And sometimes people criticize them because they don't have enough of Jesus's literal words in them. But here it is. If you really want to know Christianity, I try to read the book of Proverbs each day. There's 30 chapters in the book of Proverbs. There's normally 30 days in each month. You can read a chapter a day, and there's so much wisdom in that. Maybe one proverb. And there's a saying that says you can read a proverb in a day, but it takes a lifetime to live it out. And what I'll do is, Jesus was talking and he said, well, the Queen of Sheba traveled all the way to meet and hear Solomon and to hear his words. And he said she's going to rise up in judgment because she traveled so far to hear the words of Jesus. The words of Solomon. And he said one wiser than Solomon standing right here. So we read the book of Proverbs written by Solomon, inspired by God. But Jesus is wiser than Solomon. So what should we really study? Check out the Beatitudes. They're kind of like the core fundamentals of Christianity, of Christ's teachings. And what were they? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Not blessed are the arrogant and proud. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the merciful. Why? Because they shall obtain mercy. And blessed are you when all men revile you and persecute you and cast out your name as evil because of the Son of Man's sake. For so they did to the prophets who were before you. But woe unto you when everybody speaks well of you, for so they did of the false prophets. And then he also said, judge not, and ye shall not be judged. For with the same measurement you measure others, you will be measured. right? And he also said, seek and you will find. Knock and it'll be opened unto you. Keep knocking. Keep seeking. Whoever asks, receives. Whoever seeks, finds. And to whoever knocks, it'll be given. And which of you, if he has a son, he asks for a loaf of bread, you won't give him a stone. If you ask for an egg, you won't give him a serpent. So if you, being evil, know how to give good gifts, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to them that ask him? And he just goes very in-depth about so many things. So we don't have to, I mean, it's great to watch YouTube videos about ministers. You know, I do these teachings, and I listen to a lot of other ministers, and I get so much out of them. And I study the scriptures and all these things, but the best thing to do is just look at Jesus and what he taught. That's real Christianity. If you have any question about what a minister's saying, or is this really true, just look at the Beatitudes. That's the foundation. And you look at the underlying thing, and predominantly Christ was merciful, but he also talked about hell a lot. He talked about, if your eye's causing you to sin, it's better to gouge it out and throw it away from you and enter into heaven missing an eye than to go into hell having all your members. He said that you said in the time of old, you shall not commit adultery. But he said, if you even look at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery spiritually. He said, you have heard that it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. And he said, no, love your enemies. Pray for your enemies. Because your Father God causes that same sun to rise and shine on tax collectors, sinners, everybody, right? So you got to look at Christ's teachings, because there's a lot of gospels out there that kind of get away from his teaching, and it's easy to discern them. And I'm not judging other ministers. Like it said, judge not, you should be judged, but also in the same hand, try the spirits, because there's many false spirits that have gone out into the world. Namely, they that deny the Christ, deny he was born in the flesh. And then you got whole cults, which it's a whole nother teaching, where they rewrite the Bible totally, or they predict the end of the world. Christ said, no man knows the day or the hour. He's going to come like a thief in the night, just like the flood came and surprised everybody and took them by storm, no pun intended, just kind of took them by surprise. He said, so in the last days they'll be eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage, and then bam, the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory would happen. He said it would come like a thief in the night. And he said, now, if someone knew at what hour a thief was going to break in, they set a guard. Oh, he's coming at 11:59. I'm going to watch. When he breaks in, I'm going to stop him. So he said, you too, be looking for the return of Christ, because no one knows the man of the hour. Be sober, be vigilant. Don't be led astray. And then you'll not allow, it won't take you as a surprise. And then he talked about the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish. And there were, in ancient Israel, when they'd have a wedding, they would have a lot of virgins there. We have in America normally 1 bridesmaid, and there's a couple other friends and everything. But in ancient Israel, there was many virgins that would go, and they would have their lamps, And he said 5 of them were wise, 5 of them were foolish. 5 of them took their oil and extra oil. The other ones only had enough for a short time. And he said, as it got late and the bridegroom delayed his coming, the ones that only had a little oil, they ran out. And so they said, hey, to the ones that brought extra, they're like, hey, give us some of your oil. And the ones that had extra, no, lest if we give you ours, then we run out and we're going to be in the same boat as you. So they went to the market to buy some oil. But while they went, the bridegroom came. And the ones that had the oil went in, but the ones that didn't got locked out. And they knocked, and it was already shut. The wedding feast was going on, and they were left out. Now, the interpretation or analogy to this is pretty obvious. There's going to be a lot of people who run out of oil. They run out of gumption. They run out of following God. And if you look, oil's pretty much, in the Bible, always a symbol of anointing or God's presence or his spirit. So we should stay full of oil, stay full of his spirit, stay full of his presence, and not let that day catch us unaware. Because really, in the last day, if Jesus appeared right now, and you're right now trying to get your life together, it's too late. So you got to be in a state of sobriety and readiness at all times. You know, he taught it like it's a master who goes away and leaves people in charge. When he comes back, if they're squandering his goods and doing bad, what do you think someone's going to do? If your boss puts you in charge of a project and you don't know when he's coming back, and you start to roll the dice and slack off and you quit doing it, and then all of a sudden he pops in at 1:15 in the afternoon, and you're not being diligent, you're doing something totally different, do you think he's going to be like, all right, you're promoted, awesome, but the people that are diligent doing the project and working are, hey, you're promoted, you're great, thank you for doing that. Matter of fact, I'm taking you the jobs that the slacker had, giving you his jobs, you're going to pour this, and the slacker gets fired and has nothing. And that's the same analogy. Because Christianity, Jesus didn't say it'd be easy. Now, there are gospels that say an easy street, but I got to bail and say, because a lot of those preachers, they don't get up there and claim easy street. If you listen real close, they are saying if you honor God, if you follow him. So we can't be too hypercritical. You know, and I think you guys kind of infer, know what preachers I'm talking about, but really, God's the judge of them ultimately. And Jesus said, no one can do a miracle in my name and then soon speak evil of me, because his disciples came back and they said, God, there's other people, Jesus, casting out demons in your name. We stopped them. Christ said, don't do that. Nobody doing a good work in my name can soon speak evil of me. So I hope this word motivates you and you take away from it to stay ready, stay sober, stay vigilant in all your dealings. Stay sober, stay vigilant, do your best every day. Like I always say, you're not going to get tomorrow. You're not going to get today back. The clock's ticking. These minutes, you can't get them back. You know, I mean, you can always maybe, if you lose $1, get $1 back, or even $2. But once these minutes are spent, you can't get them back. So do the most with your life. Do the most with you have here on earth. And know that Jesus, if we get back to him teaching, he always taught about God being our Father. So when you think of him, think of a loving, caring Father. But also carry yourself soberly in this generation. He said, in the last days, it's going to be wicked and perverse generation, you know, and you're going to shine like lights in it. So try to keep your garments clean, so to speak, unspotted from the world. And it's not easy, but he loves you. He's merciful. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.